You said even if you have a general idea of CPR, what we try to emphasize is bad CPR is better than no CPR at all. If someone has no pulse, you cannot hurt them with CPR. You can only help them with CPR. So I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for responding. What I can say is that the person did not have a pulse when you arrived. At arrival at the hospital, this individual did have a pulse. So what you did makes a difference. People who have Pulse Point, you will make a difference. We encourage you to go to your Google Play Store or your App Store, download Pulse Point today. Eric, thank you very much for
I want to welcome you to the City of Richland's May 21st, 2019, and it also happens to be the very last council meeting in these chambers, is my understanding. So this is, in a way, kind of... I'm kind of cracking up here. I guess the future has come. And when you talk about the future, the first thing I want everybody to know is that we do not have internet access in this building based on certain things that may have occurred that were outside of our control. So with that, everything, all mics are live. Just give you guys a little tip, so keep your comments to where they need to be. And we're going to do the best we can without technology, and I bet you it doesn't change much. So with that, I was wondering if we could read the roll.
Mayor Thompson.
I am present.
Mayor Pro Tem Christensen.
Present.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Present.
Councilmember Lemley.
Present.
Councilmember Luxon.
Present.
Councilmember Kent.
Present.
Councilmember Anderson.
Present.
Could you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, I was wondering if I could have a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The agenda is hereby approved. We have some presentations this evening, and I will ask Debbie to go ahead and read the rules on that.
Okay. The purpose of a public hearing is to give the audience an opportunity to address council members concerning a subject for which the hearing is convened. It's an official on-the-record communication geared towards giving council members information and opinions that they may consider in their decision-making process. To provide an orderly process, will the audience members who wish to speak raise your hand to be called on by the mayor? Come to the lectern, speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and then after speaking, write your name and address on the record sheet by the Deputy City Clerk. To allow every participant the opportunity to be heard, public hearing comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. For your convenience, a time prompter at the podium will alert you when a yellow light with a yellow light when 30 seconds remain. At the end of 3 minutes, the red light will flash and a buzzer will sound. Council requests that you do not duplicate comments made by a previous speaker, but merely confirm your agreement. Public comments, where the audience is allowed to speak to agenda items on the agenda or other topics, follows the same procedure, but it's limited to 2 minutes per speaker. When appropriate, the mayor will refer an item identified during the public comments period to the city manager for further action. Please note that if a speaker intends to give council members records of any kind as part of their presentation, the records must be handed directly to the deputy city clerk for distribution. The purpose of the 3 public hearings are to consider 1, the proposed amendment to the city's Industrial Development Fund, 2, the proposed relinquishment of utility easement lying within 2110 Lee Boulevard, and 3, the proposed relinquishment of a utility easement lying within 97 Waldron Street.
Thank you so much. Let's go to our first public hearing. This deals with Ordinance 2919. Kerwin?
Thank you, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. Tonight, the budget amendment from the Industrial Development Fund equates to $321,000. It's important for me to note that these are unencumbered funds and will be drawn from recent land sales that have been done out in the Horn Rapids industrial area. So let me split that $321,000 up so you have a better idea of where that money will be applied to. First of all, $115,000 will pay for the removal of the flowage easement and the work we had to do with the Army Corps of Engineers to pay for that removal on 650 GWA. So that's about 1/3 of the overall cost. And then the remaining $206,000 are for expenses that came up out in the Horn Rapids industrial area. I'll start with the largest amount there. $110,000 goes for the installation of water and sewer stubs. You'll remember in the recent past we've subdivided a number of 1-acre lots out there. When the roads were built out there, we didn't know exactly where those lots would be, so we did not stub the sewer lines onto those private parcels until after the subdivision was created and approved, and so that $110,000 is the cost to put those water and sewer lines or stubs into those various lots out there. Then $81,000 is for wetland mitigation that's required out there for some of the new road construction and the wetlands that were removed as part of the road construction out there, and that's required by the Department of Ecology. And then $15,000 goes for outsourcing some surveying costs, again associated with the Horn Rapids Industrial Project. So if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer those at this time.
Council, do you have any questions at this point? Not seeing any. Is 7:38. I'm going to open up the public hearing portion of the meeting. Would anybody in the audience like to address council on this particular item? Please.
I'm Ginger Wireman, 2435 Michael Avenue. It's really a question. Does the wetland plan include money to make sure that it actually lives? Because the mitigation looked pretty crappy the last time I looked at it. And if we spent that kind of money, we actually want to have proper native plants and a successful restoration project.
Just so,
Yeah.
words have meaning.
Crappy. It looks crappy.
What is that?
It doesn't look like a healthy wetland. It looks like it's full of noxious weeds.
The plan doesn't do what you think it should in regards to
No, I know what a
wetland
wetland is supposed to look like.
I know, but not everybody does. That's the reason I'm asking you the question.
Okay. A wetland has obvious wetland plants and not noxious weeds. It should probably have water where there used to be water. It probably should provide habitat where it doesn't. It last I looked didn't provide habitat. So I just want to make sure that if we're paying for mitigation, that we actually get a successful living mitigation project and not something that ends up being noxious weeds and a failed project.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Answer?
Sure, I can address that question briefly, and that is the answer to that question is yes. That will, the monitoring and making sure that the wetlands does live, and that's one of the reasons we've had to do some replanting out there. So the answer to Ms. Wireman's question is yes.
Just real quick, who, I don't know what's the right way, judges that? I mean, is there an agency for the state that will review what has taken place?
Department of Ecology reviews that. We've hired Shannon and Wilson consulting firm to manage that and take care of that out there. So they'll work with the Department of Ecology to take care of that.
Yes.
Thank you. Does that add any additional questions possibly by council? If not, thank you. Next item on the public hearing. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:40. Thank you. And I'm going to move on to the next public hearing, which deals with Resolution 6419. Pete?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. There are two items before you, Resolution 64 and 65. I understand you need to conduct separate hearings for both of them, but they are very similar items in that at the forming of the city, the plat of Richland dedicated utility easements in the backyards of these two residential lots that are on the agenda. Those easements were used for water lines that have since been replaced out in the public streets, and the property owners have made application to remove that encumbrance on their lot, and we see no reason to hold on to them. Our utility services are provided through other land rights, and we think it's appropriate to relinquish these two easements. So unfortunately, with a lack of media, I'm not really prepared with graphics and that sort of thing, but two residential lots with ground encumbered in their backyard that they can't build patios, sheds, those kind of things, and they desire to, and we don't see a reason to stand in the way.
Thank you. Council, any questions at this point? If not, it is now 7:41. I'm going to open up the public hearing portion of the meeting on Resolution 6419. Would anybody like to address council this evening on this issue? It's still 7:41. I'm going to close the public hearing portion of the meeting on resolution number 6419 and move on to resolution 6519. Pete? Pretty similar stuff. Have you done your whole staff report already? Because it's the same thing? Yes. Any questions, council? Again, it is now 7:42. I'm opening up the public hearing portion of this meeting. Would anybody like to address council on this particular item at this time? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this meeting at 7:42. And I'm now going to open it up to public comment. This gives people in the audience the opportunity to address council for 2 minutes on items that are on the agenda or not on the agenda. Would anybody like to address council this evening? Please.
Well, I wanted to have
Thanks.
Ginger Wireman again. I wanted to have Pete's comments or see the stuff about the SR 240 and Aaron Drive improvements to be able to comment on them. So anyway, I had heard through the grapevine that the city is asking for HOV lanes, and I just really want to say that I totally support that, and I think we need to work as a community to encourage the Hanford contractors and DOE to get their people out of single occupancy vehicles, and Richland shouldn't have the full burden of all that traffic. It's a big safety issue. It's a big environmental issue. Adding lanes has been proven not to work in Austin and Los Angeles and, Georgia. Good Lord, Atlanta has like 8 lanes. And we don't want more lanes. We want people to stop being in their own private cars. And if we have HOV lanes, van pools and buses can actually travel faster and get people out to work. And with 5 out of the 10 largest employers in the Tri-Cities, they should take some responsibility. So it's kind of related. So there you go.
Thank you. Council, anybody else in the audience like to address council this evening? Please, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Belliston, 1417 Westwood Court, Richland. I'm here to give a brief update for Tri-City Girls Fast Pitch Softball. It will be brief as we still have not been able to get a copy of an updated version of what we discussed in January with the city. We're still trying to find a time that our group of volunteers that work full-time can meet with the city. It's been frustrating that we're nearing the end of May and we're no farther along than we were in January. Another frustration has been the absence of one of our executive board members who has had to exclude himself from our softball association until we have facility use agreement due to his obligations with the City Council. I am pleased to hear that Greater Richland has been able to make some headway in negotiations with the city during their last 2 meetings. Greater Richland's hopeful to continue to work with the city to reach an agreement on a few other concerns that they have. They were unable to be here tonight, or at least Dan Evans, who's usually here with me. We also hope to be able to reach some agreements with the city that will best serve the youth of the Tri-Cities area and keep softball as an affordable activity for all families. I plan to keep you updated. You'll keep seeing my face here. And hopefully we'll have information of numbers and stuff to share with you soon in the future. And that we'll be able to keep it in a way that we can all work together and still have Columbia Playfields in the city of Richland as an option for Tri-City Girls Fast Pitch to operate. I also would like to give a shout out to the grounds crew at Columbia Playfields, Brian, who's the main person there, and also Cody, who's there on the weekends, who they're wonderful to work with. They keep the fields looking great, and that they are very professional in their care of the fields and in working with us. And they have been a huge help to me in helping me when I've had problems with concessions or on the fields when I can't get other city employees to respond to me. So it's a thankless job that they have, and I just want them to know that the work they do is noticed and that our softball families have made note of how nice the fields are also. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment this evening? I'm not seeing any hands. It is now 7:46. I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting, which leads us to the consent calendar.
The consent calendar is approved by single vote, or council may pull items and transfer them to items of business. Minutes. Approval of the May 7th, 2019 council meeting minutes. Ordinance for first reading. Ordinance number 2919, amending the 2019 budget to increase appropriations in the Industrial Development Fund. Now for ordinances for second reading and passage. Ordinance number 2519, amending Chapter 1210 of the Richland Municipal Code related to sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. Ordinance number 2619, approving amendments to the 2019 budget to include the 2018 budget carryovers. Ordinance number 2819, approving a zone change of 314 acres from agricultural to general business, multifamily residential district, medium density residential district, single family residential district, and parks and public facilities. Now for resolutions of adoption. Resolution number 6119, authorizing an interlocal agreement with Benton County and the cities of Benton City, Kennewick, Prosser, and West Richland regarding solid waste planning and services in Benton County. Resolution number 6219, setting a public hearing date regarding a vacation of a portion of Center Boulevard. Resolution number 6319, authorizing a First Amendment to the Sewer Latecomer Agreement with Palish Homes at Westcliff Heights, LLC. Resolution number 6419, authorizing a relinquishment of a utility easement lying within 2110 Lee Boulevard. Resolution number 6519, authorizing a relinquishment of a utility easement lying within 97 Waldron Street. Resolution number 6619, establishing the 2018-2019 docket of comprehensive plan policies, maps, and zoning code amendments. Resolution number 6719, issuing a purchase order to Weatherproofing Technologies Incorporated for roof restoration to the Richland Library. Resolution number 6819, authorizing an interlocal agreement with the city for city participation in Benton County District's Court Therapeutic Courts. Items for approval. Authorization of travel for Councilmember Lemley. And finally, expenditures approval. Expenditures from April 29th through May 8th, 2019 for $6,556,360.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar that is just read and published.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor. I don't know whether the electronic system's going to work, but let's try it. And if not, we'll have a voice vote.
It shouldn't be on the internet.
Well, you know, again, I'm old school. I thought we were going to do old school. This is electronic stuff. You know?
That's pretty old school, Bob, I think. I think
Well, I still do this on my telephone, so be quiet. Okay. So the consent calendar, I think, passed unanimously. Okay. With that, we have no items of business this evening. So, Cindy?
First of all, I want to remind everyone that we have the grand opening of our new City Hall on June 10th from 4 to 6 p.m. We worked with staff today about the program. Some of you will be involved in that, and more so than others, but please all come. The general public's invited as well. We will have tours of our new City Hall, and we hope council will act as tour guides for your new council chambers. Also, I'd like to introduce, I have to stand up for this, John Bruce. Would you stand up, John? John is our new chief of police. He hasn't started yet. He will start in a few weeks, but he is out here visiting and taking in the sights of the community and meeting with different staff members. So,
looking at our beautiful City Hall chambers.
yes,
Yeah.
he now knows why we built a new City Hall.
A good time to be out of Texas, away from those tornadoes and thunderstorms too.
Yeah, we're given, I'll tell you.
Thank you, Chief. Lastly, thank you for the comments. I will certainly pass those along to the field crews out at Columbia Playfield. They'll appreciate those compliments. Thank you.
Heather?
No, thank you.
Brad?
I don't know. That's a no, pretty much, but it's our last meeting here. Trying to think of things that I wish I would have said, wish I would have done. It's a last chance.
Thanks for the memories.
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to the new one. This it'll be nice. There's one thing I wanted to do that I never got to do, and I missed my opportunity.
Oh,
I always wanted to see if the red lights actually work.
There it goes.
I've never had a red light on my name up there. I've never been able to vote no on a complete consent calendar. One of the things I got to check off my list. No, that's it. I'm good now. I wanted to say a few more words in here. I'm tearing up.
oh, my God. I need tissues.
Well, okay. So, Sandra?
Cindy, thank you for the email regarding what's going to happen with the stuff at City Hall. I thought, I was blown away by the level of collaboration that was described in the email. Everything from the collaboration that's being done with some of our local nonprofits to pass on furniture to, working with the master gardeners on the plantings and stuff. So thank you very much for pulling that information all together, because that was extremely informative, and I'm looking forward to passing that information on to others.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Welcome, Chief and fellow Scout member. I think you'll love our community. It's a great place to go ahead and have a family and do all the outdoors things I think you had spoke about over at the library. And last but not least, I want to say I carry a very proud long-term title, United States Marine. And so I know this weekend, we have a 3-day weekend with Memorial Day coming up. And if you would do me a favor on Memorial Days, you think about all the people that have given their lives to serve our country. Just take a few moments of that while you're doing your barbecues and we're enjoying that 3-day weekend. If you do me that favor, that would be a great service to all those men and women that have served our armed forces. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
I assume everyone saw the article in the paper this week about the new armory that we have coming in North Richland. I want to blow my horn a little bit here. I started working on this project over a year ago, I guess now. Went to Olympia and met with the deputy adjutant general over there, and he wanted a place to build a new facility over here, and we worked on this hot and heavy, and I stayed after Kerwin relentlessly, but it's going to happen, and it's a great facility for Richland. Not a lot of jobs, but we've got a lot of people coming into our community to see our community, and they'll spend money here, and go back and tell the people how great it is here. That's it.
Thank you.
I'll give a gift to my fellow council members in the last meeting and have no comments.
That is a welcome gift.
Yes,
I
the
might
gift
add.
that keeps on giving.
Jerry.
Well, I want to welcome the chief too. We're excited to have you on board. There's only one requirement from here. You only shop for houses in Richland. So let your better half know that, and make sure she knows where their boundaries are. Memorial Gardens, I mean, out on the bypass, if you haven't been there on a Memorial Day, you really should go out there. I think it's the LDS Scouts put up, geez, what is it, over 100, or is it 1,000 flags out there that it's just an amazing sight out there, and so many people go out and recognize people who have passed. They did have, and they used to have in the mornings out there, they would have a memorial service out there for military. I don't know if they've continued that or not. It's been a couple of years. Last couple of years I've vacationed on Memorial Day. That's an awful thing to say. But not that my heart isn't there, but my feet are in probably the right place. Brad talked about tears up here. This will be about 18 years I've been sitting at this dais up here, and it will be a real dramatic change to head over to someplace else. I have seen people push the red button, but maybe not you, Brad. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've been doing this for a while, and so I was thinking of all the controversial votes that we've had. And frankly, Council, I think, after all those years, I think probably got it up. They got it right most of the time, because you know, delivering water, sewer, and protecting the public from a police and fire perspective is kind of what we do. We sometimes kind of run afoul when we get out on things that cities aren't very good, and that's maybe a question about government. But some of my favorites was cat licensing, because that directly impacted the citizens. But I got to tell you, there was like 5 meetings about cat licensing, and people care about their animals, and I'm pretty sure less than 2% of people in the city of Richland ever followed the ordinance to ever license a cat, which would be what somebody would have, like me, would have said, no joke. I mean, that's not rocking. Nobody's going to do that. But we get some out on things that we probably have no business doing. And on a more serious note, the Tri-Cities, I think, lost. Well, first off, he was my friend, so maybe I say this just because he was my friend. But in a way, he was a mentor, and he led the Tri-Cities to be closer together. I'm talking about Steve Young, who passed away this last week. I got to visit with Steve on his last day, and that was difficult, right? Because you see somebody who is your mentor, and you see the devastation that certain diseases can have on people. And it really caused me to pause about, why do we do what we do, given how fragile we are and life is. And so, I want to compliment the people that have tried to make a difference with their communities. Steve made a huge difference in Kennewick. He had his detractors, but that was probably because he was too good at what he did, frankly. And so you're always going to get people who want to push back. And so Steve had his detractors. But if you look at the great gains that not only the city of Kennewick did, but the Tri-Cities did with his cooperation with the city of Richland and Pasco and West Richland, and what he did on the national front from Hanford perspectives, I think gets lost sometimes. So we lost a good friend. I lost a personal friend. I can only hope that those of us that are on the dais and those people who listen to these words understand what it means to be involved in public service, and maybe take the time to actually get involved in public service, because it can make a difference to your community. With that, good night, everybody.
The Richland Public Library is proud to call itself a third space, different from home, work, or school, complementing its patrons' need for education, socialization, and entertainment.
The library is a third space because it's a space that's not your home, although you're always welcome here. It's not your office, but we encourage you to come here and study. Libraries are very much a communal space. They are an anchor in the community, a place where people come to meet others, and a place where they can be alone, but in the midst of others, and not in a place of consumption like a shopping place.
It may be the need for information that brings the patrons in, but it's the depth of the programming and activities that keep them coming back.
We are very fortunate in that we have wonderful librarians, and we've been able to specialize as of 2 years ago. So we have a teen librarian, we know we have a wonderful children's librarian, and we have an adult librarian. Why? We do very well when it comes to children's programming, but we have areas of growth when it comes to teens and adults both. Teens need places to go. They need places to be and to be with others. Adult programming also key and very important. We have things like the Memory Cafe where caregivers can get out of the confines of their homes and come here. We have movie days where people can come and watch films, and these are adult geared. In addition, so they supplement, they extend what we have for our children's programming.
The most recent addition to the library's offering is a highly popular STEAM space, which completed construction in August of 2017. This soundproof area was built with funding from the Library Foundation and Friends of the Library. It is the dedicated space for those that want to do.
STEAM is important because it allows people to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do, and the emphasis today in libraries is on doing. For instance, we had a patron who uses the library quite often who has use of only 3 fingers. She was able to come in and is wheelchair bound. She was able to come in and go under seas, and she told us this was the first time she'd ever not felt the weight of her wheelchair. And that's a part of the function of our virtual reality and our STEAM space, which has resources like 3D printers, multiple ones, and we've even had nursing students use those to help them generate different body parts in 3D perspectives. We have robotics such as Ozobots, kids and adults alike. Those are, I think, our most popular toys, if you will. And so people are coming here and the value is clear, and we're very proud to look out in the parking lot and see not one space empty.
And that is why the Richland Public Library is happy to claim its relevancy of being a third space for all.
The libraries remain relevant. They were in the past, they are today, and they will be in the future. It's a place where we are responsive to your needs, to patron needs, and so we will survey. We actually survey twice a year to determine what changing needs people have for the library, and then we seek to answer those. But in terms of the information we have here, everyone knows they're curated. This is the best information, the most current information, and it's available for free as a card-carrying member of the library.
You're watching CityView TV, your Richland community connection.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Explore Richland. I'm your host, Mark Ingham. Well, today we are exploring at one of the prime father and son bonding locations in all of Richland. Now, no, I'm not talking about one of our popular city parks, rather the Richland landfill. Now, I have very fond memories of my father bringing me to the landfill as a kid, and those memories don't just stop with me. Now, my dad, or we should call him Grandpa, is bringing my kids here to the landfill, and it's something that they all enjoy so much. Now, the city of Richland owns and operates the Richland Public Landfill, which is a huge benefit to the residents of Richland. Now, to talk about that, we are proud to welcome Jay Marlowe to the program. Jay is the solid waste manager for the city of Richland. Jay, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Mark. Thank you.
You bet. So a city-owned landfill is actually not that common. You know, West Richland, Kennewick, Pasco, they don't offer this amenity to their residents. So what is the benefit of a municipally owned and operated landfill?
Well, it probably comes down to control. As you know, the City of Richland is a full-service city, offering everything from A to Z, energy services, water, sewer, storm, and landfill solid waste services as well, both collection and disposal. So I think the City of Richland prides itself in being a full-service city, and it gives us full control. Environmentally speaking, we hired a consultant to analyze those starting back in 2016 and presented our findings in 2017 to both the Utility Advisory Committee and City Council in a workshop format. Our consultant that we had perform the study, when they looked at some of the environmental factors, one of the main things was transportation costs and everything that goes with diesel-powered trucks hauling garbage long distances. And so environmentally speaking, that was one of the benefits that they recognized. The facility, when we expand here in later 2019, 2020, and open our new cell, we'll have the state-of-the-art line facility just like the regional landfills have. And so environmentally speaking, we'll be on par with what they provide for those other cities nearby us.
Wow, that's great, and it sounds like just almost too many benefits to fit into a soundbite. But we also want to walk residents through what a typical visit to the Richland landfill looks like. So can you talk to us about what kind of procedures and processes are in place, and just kind of take us through maybe someone's first time visiting the landfill?
Sure. So maybe I'll just start back. This landfill cell that we're currently operating in, I think we opened in May of 1975. This building and scale that you see behind you was constructed somewhere around 1977, 1978, and it's been in place in operation since then. And so that's probably the landfill experience you had back in the day with your dad. Probably not too much different today. But when you arrive on site, your first interaction with our staff is here at the scale house window. When you arrive, they'll ask you a myriad of questions from where the material's coming from, where you're from, and the types of materials that you're bringing in. Here at the landfill, we exclude certain items at the landfill face, like tires, batteries, electronic goods, those kinds of things. And so City of Richland residents can deliver green waste and sod to the landfill for free currently. And then any solid waste or household waste has a minimum fee of $10, and that's for up to 1,200 pounds. And the scale house attendant will make that determination as you come through the gate, whether you're comfortably under the 1,200 pound mark and get the $10 flat fee, or if they're going to charge you per ton basis.
And of course, we need to remind Richland residents that when they arrive at the scale house, they need to have their current driver's license and their most recent utility bill to prove residentship. So once the residents make it through the scale house, the next spot they will see is household hazardous waste. Jay, kind of talk to us about what items are accepted here.
All right. We have a limited amount of items that we currently accept. The household hazardous waste facility that we did have back in the day unfortunately burned down several years back. And so now we just offer some of the basics, which is used oil collection, used antifreeze collection, small battery collection, propane containers. Those are kind of the basics that are still offered today. We also offer our standard recycling drop boxes similar to what you would see at our 7 drop box locations around the city.
Great, definitely a great benefit to residents of Richland. And Jay, the next stop on the tour of the landfill is the transfer station. What kind of items can residents dispose of here?
Well, Mark, first as you approach our transfer station facility, you'll see some diversion opportunities. We divert metal and send that to a local vendor for recycling.
Okay.
We also collect green waste in a separate area, as you can see here. We do also divert some dimensional lumber, clean lumber in this area as well. And as we move on towards the transfer station, that is where we collect the remainder of the household garbage, construction debris, landscaping debris that can't be ground and used in our compost operation.
And now, as I'm looking past the green pile here, I'm seeing a lot of, items I would consider as approved items to go in there, grass, leaves and stuff. And I'm also seeing like some pallets of wood. Are pallets of wood items that are acceptable in there, or do you guys have to pick that out afterwards?
No, clean dimensional material is also ground and is used in the compost operation just like our green waste is. If there's anything painted, stained, treated in any way, it does get disposed of like regular garbage.
Okay, and so from the green waste, then we have rims, I guess tire rims, actual rubber tires that can be disposed of, and then the transfer station where everything else can get put into.
That is correct. Tires are not allowed in the landfill, and so we separate them here as well and haul them to a vendor in Eastern Oregon for final disposal. But yeah, once you put material in the containers here at the transfer station, it's been screened both at the scale house, like we previously talked, by the transfer station attendant that will help you here at this building. And at that point, we know it's ready to go to the landfill face and be disposed of.
Wow, and now Jay, very orderly, very methodical, very thought out. When did separating and diverting materials here at the landfill become a priority, and what was the goal of that effort?
Yeah, so we really put some emphasis on it back around 2010 to 2012 time frame. I think at that point we could see the end of time coming, for, so to speak, for our existing 46-acre landfill cell. At that point, we knew we wanted to conserve space and conserve the life of that 46 acres that we had available to us at that point. Its current fill date is projected to be early 2020. And so earlier when I talked about some of the consultant work that we had performed to evaluate our disposal options moving forward, it was at that point that we settled on landfill expansion here at our current facility. It helped us get to this 2020 mark, this diversion effort did. Without it, we would have been doing this, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
And diverting and separating waste streams didn't stop here at the landfill. It also started out at residential. Back in 2010, the City of Richland launched a green curbside yard waste collection and the blue can, the commingled curbside recycling. How have these efforts helped extend the life of the landfill?
They have definitely helped, like you say. In looking at our annual report numbers from last year, we landfilled about 57,000 tons, and we diverted about 22,000. Most of the diversion was in that green waste tonnage. And then our other big commodity that we've diverted is concrete and asphalt debris. Those have been the big ticket items for diversion.
And I wanted to ask you, I know we've kind of talked about it as we've progressed through this program, but I did want to kind of ask a question about just the state of the landfill, where are we at right now?
Yeah, so I probably tipped that off just a minute ago in one of my responses. But yeah, like I mentioned, the 46-acre cell that began back in 1975 is reaching capacity, projected to be 2020. Somewhere in the early 2000s, landfill staff started to excavate what they expected to be the new cell. And so they made quite an investment in moving that material. And that was part of the factor that played into the consultant's work that I previously talked about in evaluating our options. We already had a cell excavated and pretty much ready to expand. At the same time, we're working with the consultant to determine the best path forward in regards to disposal. We also had a consultant working on a landfill expansion permit for this site. And we knew that having flexibility was going to be best for us, no matter what way the consultant's determination came out, whether it was the transfer station long haul, we would be ready for that. If their decision was to landfill here on site or expand our existing landfill, we would have that permit in hand and be able to do that as well. And so those two things kind of came together, like I mentioned, late 2017 with a final conclusion, recommendation, and then presentation to the Utility Advisory Committee and City Council.
Right. I find the landfill fascinating. I find how cities are able to handle their garbage fascinating, and maybe it's something that most residents maybe don't even think about. They just put the can out there and the garbage truck comes take it away. Could you talk a little bit about the science, or how we, the science of the pit? In the 70s, I believe there was a different process for how things were handled at the pit to what we're doing now to what's going to happen with the new cell. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the science of the pit and how we store or get rid of our waste?
Sure. I would say, this 46 acres that we've been working on since 1975 is essentially an excavated hole in the ground. And not a lot of effort was put into managing the material and extending the landfill or improving compaction of the material going in. And in today's world, we have landfill compactor that's running 8 hours a day, placing the material as densely as possible. to eliminate future settlement of the cell, to maximize our airspace. And so handling and processing of material has probably been one of the biggest things. The second piece would be the liner systems associated with the new regulations. Our landfill expansion will obviously include those elements. A multiple liner system and a leachate collection system, and leachate's just a fancy word for water that's come in contact with waste. We'll have a system for collecting that water and treating it. So
Great. Well, good stuff. And Jay, thank you so much for coming on the program and talking with us about the landfill, the
You
state
bet.
of the
Thank you,
landfill,
Mark.
and some exciting times coming for the landfill in Richland as we open up a new cell somewhere around 2020. We want to share that the Richland landfill is currently operating under its summer hours, which run March to October. In that time, the landfill is open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And remember, the landfill is always closed on city-observed holidays. And of course, if you have any questions regarding the Richland landfill, they would love to help you out. Give them a call at the phone number below, 942-7498. Now, if you would like any more information on anything City of Richland related, we strongly encourage you to visit our webpage at the link below, www.ci.richland.wa.us. And don't forget to follow us on all the popular social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We're always sharing tons of important information on our social media platforms. Now, I'm going to see if someone will let me drive that huge tractor. Let's go ask. Jay, what do you think?
no, Mark, I don't think
Not
you're
the big
qualified.
tractor?
How about this?
Okay,
Will this do?
okay, the little Bigfoot John Deere 4x4.
All right.
I'll take what I can get. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can even start this thing. All right. Well, thanks for joining me on this edition of Explore Richland. To the pit. I'm in neutral. Oh, here we go. Yeah, baby.
Oh wow, 100 grand? Spud nuts, my favorite.
Not all criminals are this stupid. Don't ruin your day by making it any easier on them. Lock it, remove it, or lose it. No one steals.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Explore Richland. I'm your host, Mark Ingham. Now, when we came up with the idea for this program, this is the type of exploring I had in mind. Out in nature, on the water, enjoying one of the beautiful amenities that make Richland such a great place to live. Now, in many cases, these amenities are not here by accident. It takes the hard work of dedicated volunteers, and that's certainly the case with the Taptil Water Trail. Now, I'm pleased to talk to one of those volunteers. Dirk Peterson is the Vice President of the Taptil Greenway Association. Dirk, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me out here.
Well, yeah, you bet. Now, I want to start off the program by learning more about the organization you are involved with. What is the Taptil Greenway Association, and what is your mission?
Well, we are an all-volunteer nonprofit that was founded in 1995 with a mission to promote conservation, education, and recreation along the lower Yakima River. One of our initial and ongoing projects is establishing a hiking, biking, and equestrian trail along the lower Yakima River from Bateman Island up to Benton City. We also help maintain the trails within Chomna and Amon Creek Natural Preserves and in W.E. Johnson Park.
Wow. Now, one of the exciting trail projects the Greenway recently completed is the one that we're exploring today, the Taptil Water Trail. So how was the idea for this trail born?
Well, the seed was planted through interactions with the Washington Water Trails Association, and that was involved with the creation of the Northwest Discovery Water Trail along the Snake and Columbia Rivers as part of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial Celebration. And we realized that creating a water trail along the lower Yakima River would be a natural complement to the land-based trail we were already working on.
Now that's great, Dirk. And you know, the river trail is unique in that the trail was already here, right? The Yakima River. So what work did you all need to complete to make the Tap-Tail Water Trail?
Well, the launch sites along the water trail are located on property that are under the jurisdiction of various entities. So our initial effort was to approach and start working with a group of key partner organizations. This included the Army Corps of Engineers, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, Benton County, and the cities of Richland, West Richland, and Benton City.
Okay.
From there, we got a generous grant from REI that funded the work to create, print, and install maps and signs along the water trail. Since then, we have also printed and distributed over 2,000 Tap-Tail Water Trail brochures.
Oh, wow, that's great. And now, Dirk, what makes the Yakima River, what makes a trip down the Yakima River so special? You know, kind of describe the sights and the sounds you experience along the way.
Well, let me start by describing the water trail itself.
Okay.
The water trail from Benton City to Bateman Island is 31 miles long with 10 well-dispersed launch sites. These include 3 paved launch sites, 3 Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife launch sites that require a Discover Pass to use, and 4 more primitive access sites.
Okay.
The trail can roughly be divided into 3 sections. On the upper section from Benton City to Horn Rapids Park, you're heading north, and once leaving Benton City, you're surrounded by open space and parkland.
Oh, wow.
I should mention that immediately below the Horn Rapids boat launch, there's a portage around the Wanawish Dam. The middle section of the river from Snively Road to Hyde Road has the most twists and turns. In this section, you're mostly traveling along a suburban environment and is the best area for bird watching and fall colors. The lower section from Hyde Road to Y Park has the slowest water. This is particularly true below the Dupertail launch, as this section of the river is influenced by the McNary impound on the Columbia River.
Wow.
Pelicans are particularly plentiful along the Yakima, and it's not unusual to spot great blue herons and egrets. And it's also not uncommon to see deer and occasionally coyote along the trail.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, since we've been on the river, I've seen quite a few fish jumping out, which is you know, exciting to see. And I believe those are carp, right?
Right. But in addition to carp, there are still salmon runs that go up the Yakima.
Okay. Cool. Now, Dirk, I know the Yakima River is your passion and your group's passion, so no offense, but sometimes I feel like the Yakima River is kind of the forgotten river in town, meaning the mighty Columbia kind of gets all the praise. So I was just hoping you could kind of compare the Columbia and the Yakima rivers for us.
Well, the Yakima is narrow, shallow, and more intimate. You get closer to the surroundings and wildlife with far fewer motorized boats. It twists and turns in ways you won't encounter on the Columbia. So in paddling a few mile stretch of the Yakima, you could be heading north, south, east, and west all in the same journey. And during that journey, you can encounter natural, agricultural, suburban, and urban environments.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. And now, another thing I wanted to ask you, just kind of personally, you know, your group, the Greenway Association, and you in general, you guys put a lot of hard work on weekends, just during the day, you know, maintaining, building these trails, a lot of effort. And then, you know, just the general public comes out and uses them. I was wondering, what enjoyment do you get out of maybe seeing people using the trails you guys work so hard on?
Well, every year we put on a couple paddle events along the Tap-Tail Water Trail. And this past June, we paddled from Benton City to Horn Rapids Park with over 40 participants. So it's always really rewarding to put on an event with that much participation, and especially to meet people that are either new to the area or new to paddling on the Yakima. And we have an upcoming event on August 18th where we will paddle from Hyde Road down here to Y Park. And you can visit the Tap-Tail Greenway Facebook page for event details.
Well, that's great. Well, Dirk, thank you so much for coming on the program and talking with us about the Greenway Association and the Tap-Tail Water Trail. Of course, if you would like more information on the Greenway or the trail, you can visit them at the webpage at the link below. And of course, if you want any information on anything City of Richland related, we strongly encourage you to visit the City of Richland's webpage, which is also listed at the link below. And don't forget, if you're a social media type person, we are where you are. You can find us on all the popular social media platforms. Find the City of Richland on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Well, I'm Mark Ingham. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Explore Richland. Now, Dirk, let's go see if we can find ourselves a coyote.
What do you love most about your city? Good parks, safe streets, clean water? Ever wonder who pays for those services? Well, it's all of us. That's right. We're the taxpayers, and we pay for those services when you live or shop in a city. These same taxes also go to your schools, the county, the state. In fact, your city only gets a small portion of the property and sales tax collected within its limits. City revenues go to the operating budget, where the council funds things like police and fire, parks and recreation, planning, streets and sidewalks. These services aren't cheap. Police and fire alone can take up half the city budget. But what about the city utility systems like water and sewer? Who pays for that? Customers. Their money goes to that service, and it can't be used for anything else, like a new park that residents want. And in case you were thinking that the state and federal government pays for some of those services, well, there's not much money there. Their support of cities has dwindled. Overall, city revenues may increase in strong economic times, but they also decrease when things aren't so good. During the downturn, cities work to minimize impacts on the public, but that creates challenges even when the economy recovers, and especially when population grows. Cities are also working to enhance the services residents want, like faster public safety response time, reduced traffic, and better parks. This poses a budget problem today and into the future. Vibrant cities need reliable and stable revenue. We all need to work together to ensure that we can fund the many things we love about our cities.
Yeah. You know what? I like Richland. Dog Doogity, no doubt. Play on, Richland. Play on, Richland. Yo, your dog just dropped a deuce. Doggy, get down, good dog. Baby gotta walk her through Howard A. And all around our town, cover much ground. She gonna walk it from Leslie. In the sun, it's a good day. Each and every day, it's the our way. A girl and a dog, they were fine. Wow. Until they left the dookie, that's a crime. From the north side to the south side, it's a good day to take a trail ride. Keep your doggy on a leash with care. You know the trails are there to share. We gotta keep it fair. I noticed that day Doggy wasn't holding nothing back. Doggy, when you do yo do, I pick it up for you. Can I get down so I can? I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, you got to bag it up. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, we got to bag it up. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, we got to bag it up. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, you got to bag it up. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Hey yo, let's keep it clean. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. You know we love our city. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. We got to keep it clean. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. 'Cause we love our city. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, you got to bag it up now. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, we got to bag it up. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, we got to bag it up. I like the way you walk it. Dog doogity, you got to bag it up.
Hello and welcome to Ask Richland. I'm Michael Charbonneau, and Ask Richland is an live interactive program where you, the viewer, get to interact with us about specific questions about your city government. Each show, we try to pick a topic of discussion and focus on that and field your questions. And tonight, we're going to talk about Richland Energy Services, your Richland Electric Company. So joining me tonight to take your questions about Richland Energy Services is Energy Services Director Clinton Whitney. Welcome. And Sandy Edgman, who is the Business Services Manager for the Richland Utility. So here's how it works. All you have to do is, if you're watching us on Facebook, go right to the comments section and ask us your question. Please keep it short and brief. We want to be able to answer your question and be able to answer everybody else's question that comes up. Also, if you have any other questions that you want to ask that don't pertain to this, the easiest thing to do is go ahead and do Ask Richland at ci.richland.wa.us, and we will be more than happy to answer that question for you offline. So let's begin on Ask Richland. So Clint, easy question to start off. Explain to us exactly what is Richland Energy Services.
Thank you, Mike. Energy Services is the electric municipal portion of the city's electric department, and we provide electric service to residential, commercial, industrial customers. And we are local control, and what we like to say is our local community utility.
So what this means, though, is we're a city-owned utility, and we're the only city-owned utility.
That's right.
In our area. So how does that differ from the PUDs or the other kind of co-ops?
Yeah. Well, like the PUDs and the co-ops, the city is electric utility is a not-for-profit entity, and whereas we are managed by and governed by our city council versus commissioners or PUD commissioners at the others.
So what is a real advantage to the citizens of Richland that we are a citizen-owned utility?
It's local control is one. We serve only City of Richland residents. We don't, money stays here. It does not go to shareholders. And it's when I say local control, you can contact the city directly. It's not an 800 number to get to us. You can come down to the city hall and talk with us in person.
And because it's a citizen-owned utility, we, to use the phrase, we have skin in the game in the sense that we want to try to keep rates as low as they can possibly be.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's get on to that subject of rates. Council has approved a rate increase for this year that's going to go into effect June 1st. Tell me a little bit about that and what citizens can expect.
So the rate increase is 8%, and that's it's not easy for us to recommend a rate increase. We try to do everything possible to mitigate increases. And however, we purchase all of our power from Bonneville Power Administration, and rather than generating our own. And so it is difficult for us to have that control over the Bonneville element. And so the rate increase will be effective with the customer's first bill in June. It'll be approximately, for residential customers, it'll be approximately $8.40 on a typical residential. And this rate increase is only effective on the electric portion of our customer's bill. It's not on the whole bill itself.
Right, that's a very important distinction. It's
Absolutely.
Not the whole bill, which includes water, sewer, garbage, and some of the other utilities. Just the electric portion is where the 8% goes on.
That's correct.
Okay, you touched about Bonneville Power. Explain that a little bit more. So Richland does not generate its own electricity. We have to buy it. Tell me that.
There are some utilities, say Grant PUD, Chelan PUD, that have their own generation assets, hydropower assets. While we're a member of Energy Northwest with access to power, that is sold all through Bonneville, and so we obtain all of our power from Bonneville.
And then Sandy, but we retain our power from Bonneville, but it's not all just dams, hydro dams, is it?
That's correct. 88% of what we have in our wholesale power mix is actually hydroelectric, and then the next 10% is nuclear. So over 98% of our wholesale power is carbon-free and clean.
Wow, that's a good distinction.
We're
Again,
very fortunate.
go ahead.
Very fortunate to have that as a resource available to us, and to have it be, as Sandy said, clean.
And for us in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, the reality is we have fairly inexpensive and abundant energy, don't we?
Well, it has been inexpensive, and I wouldn't say it's abundant. There are the generation is limited, and you'll hear about low water years. You see it perhaps in irrigation, messaging out there to control and conserve water, and because of low snowpacks. And so that also affects Bonneville. And Bonneville resources, the hydro, is limited, and we have an allocation of that through our what we call Tier 1, and it's our first block of power. And above that, we have to purchase is Tier 2 power, and that may or may not be Bonneville in the future. And so the whole purpose on the Tier 2 is it's because of growth, and it's also because of limitations in Bonneville's resources. So generation, which was once plentiful, is finite.
Okay, and we're going to get to some of the technologies in a little bit, and some of the things we're doing to try to keep the rates low. But I want to go ahead and encourage you, if you do have a question about your Richland Energy Services Department, about your electrical services in general, please go ahead and just put that there on the comment section, or again, you can email us, askrichland@ci.richland.wa.us, and we'll be happy to answer it. So we're talking about different sources of power. Another source that's out there is solar. And we do have, through Bonneville Power, and that way there's options for citizens to put solar panels on their homes and actually get rebates back and get incentives back to that, where their power comes back to us for use. Explain that a little bit, Sandy.
It's actually the citizens or the customers that are putting those systems in themselves, and they do that through private contractors, and then they can use that to generate the electricity that they use in their homes or businesses. Then what happens is that we sell them the electricity, the energy, and then any that they generate in excess of what we sell them goes back into our system, and we credit them for that. That system is called net metering, because you take the net of what we're delivering to them and what we're receiving from them. Now, the viewers may see this graph that's on our system right now. So the blue graph, that's that bell-shaped curve, is actually 1 day of production of a residential customer. And I believe this customer has 5 kW system. Now, this is July 3rd of 2018, so we had full sun, and she got a lot of good production from that. The red line above it is what our system looked like. So all of the power that was coming into our system on that day at the same time. Now, of course, that's in megawatts, which is much larger. The solar was producing in kW, which is 1,000th of that. That's right. The red that you see is actually what when our system peaked. So typically our system in the summer will peak between 4 and 7 p.m. And what I wanted to show with this was the difference between the red line and the blue line is quite large.
Right.
And what I'm trying to demonstrate is that the solar production is dropping off at the time when we really need it.
Right.
So solar doesn't benefit us a great deal, and there's not a lot of it that we have on our system that we're buying back from customers. Now, having said that, we're in the process of looking at exactly how all of the solar combined does benefit us, and we're going to be doing more analysis on that.
Aren't we required to carry some solar power in our portfolio, so to speak?
We will be required to have some renewable portfolio standard, and RPS is what the state is requiring, and there's the trigger on it is based on the number of accounts that we have, and so we're expecting to hit that trigger threshold this year, and then it'll be approximately 4 years from now when we would have to purchase our first 3% of renewable.
So it doesn't have to be solar, it could be wind, it could be whatever other renewables are out there.
That's correct.
That's right.
And one of the important points to recognize on that is not only are we going to be required to purchase some of that renewable, but it'll have to be, because it's not there all the time, it'll have to be shaped and blocked with a base load generation somehow. And we currently can use Bonneville to help us provide that power when the renewable is not.
Yeah. The other thing about this compliance, it's the Energy Independence Act, which was probably better known as I-937. And we are the second utility to actually grow into that 25,000 customer threshold. So most of the utilities had to comply as soon as it went into effect. And then Franklin hit the target, I believe, about 2 years ago, and now we are growing into that. If we can get folks to save energy through energy efficiency, then that lowers our load so that we wouldn't have to go out and purchase as much additional power. And renewable it is more expensive than the standard power mix that we have. Unfortunately, under the law, hydropower is not considered renewable. So in that case, 88% of what we're purchasing, of course, nuclear isn't either. So we are going to be looking at more power purchases.
And that was one of my questions I was going to come to you is, does renewables cost us a little bit more? And you're saying, well, yes, it does. So for trying to have customers save energy and finding ways to keep from hitting that threshold, we're all better off as customers in the long run. But as Richland grows, it's inevitable that we're going to hit that point then.
Yes, well, energy efficiency is what we call our lowest cost resource. So it's less expensive than building power plants and then going to the market and trying to purchase more power. So if folks will save energy, then we've got some ways to help them with that as well.
So it's really a win-win. It's a win for the customers, and it's a win for the utility, for the city, to where we don't have to purchase as much Tier 2 power or renewables in the future.
Quickly explain that to me, the tier power. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I talked about it earlier here. Tier 1 is our allocation of Bonneville's generation system. And so it's approximately 2% of what Bonneville has available for generation. That's what we are allocated of Bonneville's system. And when our power needs or our growth goes beyond that, then we're having to forecast to project what that load would be, and then obtain that power in the market. And that second step of power that has to be purchased outside of Bonneville space system is called Tier 2.
Okay, good. Well, we have a question, so let's go right to it. So the question is, what do I do if I have a tree branch that is getting close? Okay, we hear this a lot, close to a power line in my backyard.
You call us. And we do have a tree program, a regular tree trimming program where the entire city is covered every 5 years. And in this case, if the customer does have a tree that is close to the distribution line, you would call us at 942-7429, our power operations line. You can also go online and on our website, and it's I want to, and then report, and you can issue that online as well.
This is a great time of year to talk about this. With spring, trees are just now starting to bud out. What doesn't look like a branch or a tree close to a power line today may be a branch that's too close tomorrow or a month from now as that tree grows. And it goes beyond just the power lines. We also have meter readers that go around and read electric and water meters. And sometimes bushes, shrubs will grow up and obstruct those meters. And so that makes it difficult for our meter readers to get an accurate read on the meter. And so what I always suggest is this is a perfect time of year to go find out where your water meter is, where your electric meter is, and see if you have ready access to that to read that meter. And if not, it might be time to do some bush trimming, bushes trimming, and that's up to our homeowners to take care of. Tree trimming, if the tree is a safety hazard close to the power line, as Sandy mentioned, contact 942-7429, and we'll have someone come out and take a look at it.
And we do want citizens to call on something like that, because if the branch goes down, potential power outage. So
yes, and it's the real reason is it's a safety hazard.
Right.
So if you have a tree where kids are going to be climbing in it, we certainly don't want them to get into the power lines or have issues like that. We want everybody to be safe.
Good.
The other thing, Mike, I'll tell you about is our tree replacement program. So if the certified arborist that we work with comes out and determines that the tree is going to continue to grow, it's too tall for the space that it's in, we'll remove that tree and then give you a coupon to go and buy another tree that's more appropriate from one of our local nurseries.
Win-win there. So let's talk a little bit about what you enjoy, which is the overall running of the utility, our growth in our infrastructure, and our renewal and replacement program. What's the importance of all this, that we stay on top of it?
Well, it's like anything. Eventually, equipment wears out and does need to be replaced. And what we want to do is maximize the life of that asset, not replace it too soon, but not wait too long. If we wait too long, then outages increase, and you'll be looking at a graph here of outages since 2006 through 2019. Of course, 19 is only a partial year, so this data will get refreshed over time. And the big takeaway on this is over those number of years, the outages have continued to decrease, and that's because of our investment in our reinvestment in our system through renewal and replacement. So cable underground infrastructure typically lasts about 40 years. Overhead infrastructure lasts about 75 years, 50 to 75 years. And there are many parts within Richland that are at that age. And so it's time to reinvest in those areas. There's a graph showing what we call a heat map, and it's areas that when we graph out our outages, these are areas that have shown clusters of outages. And so it's an opportunity for us to, it tells us that we need to go reinvest in those areas and to decrease those outages. And so in North Richland, in 2019, we'll be doing some cable renewal and replacement. And you might see a contractor of ours out in the neighborhood. And of course, they'll have documentation and to identify who they are. And but we'll be doing quite a bit of directional boring in that North Richland area. It's very minimal disturbance for our customers, and our customers have been very pleased with what's been done in the past few years on our renewal and replacement projects. And it minimizes the disturbance to their backyards.
And that goes underground, right, rather than trenching?
Right.
They can do either one. It depends on whether the area is open to being able to be trenched. And if there's patios, concrete, retaining walls, they'll bore underneath those areas. And so that gives us an opportunity to put in new conduit and rejuvenate for another 40 years. And so that's what we're continuing to drive for, is drive to decrease outages in these problem areas, these hot spots, And you can see that there's an area in the Orchard Hills area, South Richland as well. So these are areas in 19 that we're focusing on.
Yeah. So if you are in one of these neighborhoods, you'll actually receive a letter ahead of time, and it'll tell you what we're doing and when we expect to be in your area, and then we'll notify you the day before or a couple days before. And this helps citizens, because if you've got a pet in the backyard, a dog in the backyard, and we're going to be in the backyard, then you want to have your pet secured and the kids away from the work area.
So how do we determine where to invest with new infrastructure?
Well, that's a great question on that. Some of it's by heat maps and data. We try to use data to help us make these decisions, and analyzing data through data analytics, and some of it's outages, some of it's will overlay age of the infrastructure to help confirm that is not only age, but then the data to identify. If we know of problem equipment or time of a vendor, as an example, if a brand of transformers or infrastructure was known to be bad during that time period, we'll use our asset system to be able to go find those areas and try to be proactive on replacing them ahead of time. Time of year, we're also able to use infrared. And so we'll have everybody's got a camera on their phone, but I haven't seen that small of an infrared camera yet. Someday maybe. But that infrared camera will go around and we'll look for hotspots, truly an area that's overheating on some infrastructure. So that helps us identify problem areas as well.
We'll get back to talking about technology in a second, but we have another question. Hey, we have a would-be employee, it looks like, wanting to be there. So how many linemen do we have on staff, and how can you become a lineman?
I think this is a great question on it. We're very fortunate to have to work for the city, work for our customers, and I like to see that people are interested in becoming future employees as well. So how many linemen do we have? We currently have 18 linemen, and we have one apprentice position, apprentice lineman, and then we currently are in the process of considering applicants for a lineman apprentice.
Oh, there you go.
And so I think that there was 130 applicants for that lineman apprentice.
Might be
position.
131 there. And just
yeah. So that's exciting to see the interest. And how do you become an employee of the Richland, not just a lineman? Our jobs are posted on the city's website, and you can, I think you can get a notification of when a new job is posted on there. And so occasionally lineman positions do come available. Apprentice positions, this is our second one in probably 20, well, I shouldn't say that. It's been about 10 years before since we've had an apprentice. And so if you're interested in the trade, JATC, you can look that up on the web. And then also the local union has information on how to go through a construction lineman apprentice.
So to put in perspective, how many employees are part of Richland Energy Services?
62.
So we have, you said 18 linemen, and so. But what are some of the other departments as far as kind of sort of what do they do?
Sure. We have an engineering department, and we have an electrician department. We have meter readers. We have meter technicians. And we have radio techs, electronic techs, locators to help us find all this infrastructure when you call the UDIG number. And we have an energy efficiency department, administrative support, and we're very fortunate in the city to be able to effectively share employees. And so while I say a number of employees, you didn't hear HR, you didn't hear payroll or the other IT staff. And so within the city, we're able to utilize those services of the other support departments.
See, that gets back to my first question: what are the advantages, the true advantages? And there you go. Right?
Yeah.
Labor savings and cross-platform savings. Let's talk a little bit more about the technology. You talked a lot about as far as what we're doing for outages and that, but how are we using technology now to just improve services to our customers?
Well, I mentioned the infrared cameras,
right,
and as one of them, we're trying to use mapping systems. We currently use a system called ESRI, ESRI, and it's a mapping system that helps us identify where our infrastructure's at, and then we also have the data that goes with it. And I call it all the brand names, the model numbers, the serial numbers, all that information is in the mapping system as well. And so we can do filtering, we can do searches, queries, and to physically show it or to map us and tell us where this stuff is at. And we can look for trends. That's part of a lot of these tools are great, but if you don't utilize them, utilize the data from them, then it's customers or people may not realize the value. So we try to create queries of trends and to be able to help us identify those patterns. Yeah. We try to invest in technology when appropriate, and one of it is advanced metering. And we'll be looking at installing some advanced metering infrastructure to help us identify those outages and be able to track reliability statistics better. And so it's using the data from the technology to help us be able to make decisions. That's key.
One of the exciting things also about the technology, Clint was talking about the reliability and where we need to be renewing our system and replacing equipment. On the energy efficiency side, we'll actually be able to see where we can encourage customers to save the time of day. Demand response is something that's being used in now this part of the country. When I moved here 25 years ago from the East Coast, we were already doing it because we were paying 8 cents per kilowatt hour. At that time, 25 years ago, that was quite significant. But things like enabling the technology to turn your water heater on and off at certain times. If you don't need it during the day, we could have you turn that off or have some equipment installed. And many utilities have been using this for a number of years. So AMI is going to give us the information that we need, provide the information so that we can begin offering some of these programs and a rate structure that customers can opt in on that will give them more control over how they use electricity and when they use it.
So why is saving energy beneficial to the customer?
Well, it lowers their electric bill for one.
Well, yeah.
That's the primary reason. And once you save that energy, it's not just when you put in the new efficient heat pump, but it's that year and the year after, and then the next 8 years after that. So it really does benefit them.
I like to think of it as a win-win. The customers benefit by that multi-year savings on their utility bill, as Sandy was mentioned, but the city also benefits as well when customers utilize energy efficiency programs. And that's because our wholesale power goes down. And our requirement to purchase, as we were talking about, maybe a more expensive power when we don't really want to purchase it. So it's if we can save costs by reducing our wholesale power costs, customers can save in the long run as well.
So the money savings for customers, that's really what gets folks' attention. But there are other benefits as well. If you put in new insulation, it will make the outside noises you're less able to hear those, and so you live in a more quiet environment. Windows, for example, you get a lot of heat transfer through windows, and you can decrease that, so it'll make the area more comfortable, less hot in the summer, and then cold. You feel that heat transfer through the window, so it really does make your home more comfortable.
And we do have programs that can assist citizens to do this.
Absolutely. We have low-interest loans up to 3% for 10 years. And we also have incentives, rebates. And all you need to do is go to our website and learn about that and choose one of our contractors. We have a list of contractors that go through a certification process. We look at their application and make sure that they do good quality work. And another advantage is that we also inspect 100% of the projects that go in. And so customers are assured that the ducts are sealed the way that they need to be, that the thermostat is set the way that it needs to be, that emergency heat isn't left on by mistake. And this is another benefit that we offer to our customers.
It's a great customer service program is having that inspection process being done by the city as an independent verification of the contractor's work.
And we work with great contractors. We really are fortunate that we have such a great group, and they serve the customers well also. Good.
So just a couple more questions before we end their program. One of them that I just find really neat, which is our street lights program. And you think, well, you take these things for granted, these lights all over the place, but it is kind of neat. Tell me a little bit about that, and how can citizens report when the street lights out?
Yeah, we do rely on all mechanisms of help for reporting street lights. While we'll look and we'll use the volunteer and police services, VIPs. We also appreciate phone calls and reports from customers. Email works as well of streetlights that are not working. And we have approximately over 4,000 streetlights in the city, and that's a lot of area to cover. And on top of that, there's about 1,000 rental lights, and so it's a large undertaking to maintain those streetlights, and we're in the process of using our mapping system, one of our mapping systems that I was mentioning earlier, and to have a tool available for our customers, and to be able to look at that map and identify, click on it, and say this light is not working. And so look for that here shortly. Our customers can look for that app shortly, and it'll be available on our website. So
they can just go to the website. They can click sort of that area and boom, identify where the street light is.
There'll be a web link on our website. It's not there yet. We're still testing the system, and so it's one that we're looking forward to having available for our customers as a way to provide that input to us, and then also we can provide that return response to the customer of if it's been repaired or not.
Yeah. So in the meantime, if folks see a street light that's out at night or cycling coming on and off, or it's on during the day, they can contact our Power Operations Department, and that's 942-7429.
And is it on Request Tracker on the city's
It
website?
is.
So, okay, they can also go to the city's website to Request Tracker.
That's
and report
right.
That too. Okay, so lots of various ways. I have another question. This is about the new substation that was built, Leslie and Riata. Is it currently in operation?
Yes, it is. So we call that substation Leslie Substation. It was constructed in 2018. Bonneville finished their work late in 2018, and we energized it in early 2019. It has 5 feeders out of it. It serves that South Richland area, and it'll also help serve the growth in that area. So we're fortunate to have that substation, not only for the growth, but then also the reliability that it provides to other substations around that. And that's an interesting project. We were talking about cost control early on. And that substation is a a joint substation with the city of Richland and then also Benton PUD. Benton PUD has infrastructure in that substation as well, and so it's a way for both entities to be able to lower our overall costs, and that's what we always try to do with our Richland ratepayer money.
Yeah, that's one of the favorite things that I can brag about with our Tri-Cities utilities is that we do very well collaborating. And we do that a lot on the communication side because we have a lot of the same messages about electrical safety and power outages and the benefit of the hydroelectric dams. But in this case, both Benton PUD and the city were needing additional capacity in that area. And so it was a natural fit for us to come together and collaborate on this.
Good. One fence, two substations, two entities.
You talked about reliability, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but for any of the citizens, how reliable is our utility?
I think it's. We showed a graph early on where the outages are decreasing over time, and we're actually very fortunate to live in the Tri-Cities area. While we have a fair amount of wind does not generally cause us outages, and
just squirrels, right?
Squirrels can cause, and that's decreasing. It used to be about 100 squirrel outages a year, and I think it's down into the 80s, and so that's decreasing too. And so it's aging infrastructure is one of our nemesis right now, and that's part of the reason why we're doing the renewal and replacement programs on it. And so. No tornadoes, of course, no hurricanes. It's generally aging infrastructure that gets us.
Yeah. And that tree trimming program is very beneficial as well. Yeah. And in fact, going back to, was it the winter of 2012 when we had that huge storm and took down all the trees in the shelter belt, we had a number of old trees, and even though we had they weren't ours. A lot of them were in the neighborhoods as well. And even though we have a tree trimming program, something like that would be out of the normal for it to take down infrastructure like that. So our crews worked really hard to get everybody back in power. But for the most part, our tree trimming program really is a huge success for us.
And I wanted to talk a little bit more on the reliability of the system. When we do have an outage, and we will have outages, you can't build a system that's won't have an outage and build it economically at least. And so on average, customers can experience about one outage a year, maybe up to 60 minutes duration. And so customers should always be prepared for an outage. Have your list of supplies ready to be able to tough that out. And an outage may take up to 4 hours, just depending on how complex it is. If we have to dig up cable, finding that and digging that up, coming in after hours, that can take some time. So. Usually it's less than an hour, but for some customers, some areas, it could be up to 4 hours.
Clint mentioned that the squirrels they're not really learning to stay out of our system.
I thought that's part of an education program.
Well, that's true. Yeah, we're not educating the squirrels, unfortunately. They go by instinct. But we do put squirrel guards around our equipment, and that has really helped. Ramping that program up so that the squirrels can't get access to it. But being wildlife like they are, and they're kind of wily critters also. Sometimes we just can't keep them out of our equipment.
They're smart. They'll figure a way to get into havoc.
Yeah.
Well, squirrels aside, where can citizens get? You've talked about phone numbers. You've talked about something. But where's the best place they can get information on? Their utility.
Yeah, on our website, and that's the City of Richland's website, and then go to the Energy Services link. I think it's there on your screen. And then the phone number you can call is we've given you Power Operations phone number. The general number for us is 942-7403. And if you dial that, and we need to get you over to Power Operations, we certainly can do that.
Did that. And
Local
then one
number.
final question. Oh, go ahead.
Local number with local people.
Local number with local people. That's our new mantra. Local number with local people. One last question for you, Clint, which is, you just said it, local number for local people. What do you want our citizens to know about, their utility?
Well, number one, we care about them. We're here to support them when they need us, and all they need to do is reach out, talk to us if they have any questions or concern. But we're here to provide them safe, reliable, and cost-effective power.
Anything to add to that, Sandy?
Being a municipality, we really do try to be as transparent. And I don't want to overuse that term. Sometimes it sounds trite, but we really do. We are the citizens' government, and we are the citizens' electric utility. So we don't want to hide anything. We want to tell you what's going on and help you be excited about our electric utility the way that we are, because by your providing input to us and to City Council and our utility advisory group, we make better decisions.
And because you're not only the customers, but you're basically also the owners of the utilities. So, yeah.
That's right.
Very good. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for this edition on Ask Richland, so I want to go ahead and thank my two guests who are here today, Clint Whitney and Sandy Edgman, for joining us on that. And thank you for asking the questions. And again, if you have any questions that you would like asked, the best place to start is either on the where we had with the utilities, go to Richland Energy Services, or just pop us an email at askrichland@ci.richland.wa.us. Thanks for watching this edition of Ask Richland. I'm Michael Sharman, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Think about it. Almost every trip in Washington begins or ends on a city street. And as Washington's population and economy grows, so does the demand on the transportation network. City streets are more than just a road. Above ground, they're bike lanes, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, lighting, landscaping. But below are sewers, water, stormwater, electric, and cable utilities. And when a street is built over a waterway, it even incorporates fish passage into the design. Our transportation system is one of the most valuable assets we have. It's no small cost to ensure that it's well built and maintained for today and the future. But our city streets lack a sufficient revenue source. City transportation systems must compete with important priorities like police and fire protection, parks, and other programs and services. What about the gas taxes we pay at the pump? Well, most of that goes to the state to pay for highways. Cities receive only a small portion, and as the population has grown, your city's share hasn't kept up. It takes a while for a pothole to develop on a city street. However, it just doesn't make sense to defer maintenance. And while maintaining our streets may cost a lot, paying for reconstruction down the road costs a whole lot more. All this means that as cities grapple to fund priorities, we need to ensure our transportation systems are not neglected. We can't throw future generations under the bus. We all need to work together to make sure these important assets are well designed, constructed, and maintained.
You're watching CityView TV, your Richland community connection.
Oh wow, $100,000? Spud nuts, my favorite.
Not all criminals are this stupid. Don't ruin your day by making it any easier on them. Lock it, remove it, or lose it. No one's.
Beginning in March, residents will see some minor changes to their City of Richland utility bills. The bills will now be produced in color, which will assist with readability and in identifying important messages. The format of late notices will be upgraded